Hello, my friend. I'm so glad that you are able to join me again today. Did you know that almost all of the struggles that you and I face in life as believers, may it be spiritually, emotionally, physically, even in our relationships, actually originate out of our erroneous wrong believing about the true nature and the character of God, and also our wrong believing about who we really are. You know, I've noticed this in all of my ministry, that people really struggle with all kinds of things in their lives, and it's usually because they have an inaccurate or erroneous belief about the true nature and character of God. And then combined with that, not really knowing who they are themselves. I want us to go and have a look at something that John wrote in 1 John chapter 5, and I believe it's in verse 20. And he says, I'm going to read out of the Amplified Version. And in the Amplified Version, he says, "And we have seen and know positively that the Son of God has actually come to this world and has given us understanding and insight progressively to perceive, to recognize, to come to know better and more clearly Him who is true." Now, this is such a powerful statement that John makes, and he makes it very, very clear here. And I read it out of the Amplified because of the way it states it. It says that we know and understand that God has sent Jesus Christ, His Son, so that we might understand and come to the insight and to progressively come to know and perceive and recognize who God really is. And he says to recognize and know better and more clearly Him who is true. And then he goes on and says, and we are in Him who is true. Not only did Jesus come to show us the only true one, God, who He really is, but that we are in Him who is true. And he says, in His Son, Jesus Christ the Messiah. He says, this man is the true God and life eternal. You know, as we are going to have a look today, just to discover, just to know and understand who God is. A large percentage of people who have come to believe in God and have come to, acknowledge God through the religious system in the Christian world today, have mostly come to believe, I believe, in a God who is essentially an illusion. Now, I know that that's strong language, but I believe that many people who have come to know God in the Christian system, in the Christian religious system, have actually really come to know God more as an illusion or a false God. Because, you see, the religious system basically presents an idea or an image of God that is actually an illusion, more than an accurate picture of who God really is, and is an image that is inaccurate and not real. And this is actually the frustration that so many people struggle with in their Christian life, and that's why so many people actually say that Christianity doesn't necessarily work for them. Because if you believe in a God that is not real, in a God that's actually imaginary, either in your own imagination or in the imagination of the people who've handed it down to you through their religious ideas, getting to know and experience that God becomes futile. It becomes impossible. And then added to the problem that I see that people have is that not only do they have a grossly inaccurate view of who God is and see God really totally wrong, they don't know who they are. They don't know who God has made them to be. And this is because of the religious system that presents an idea, an image of the identity of man that is not consistent with truth. And boy, I tell you, this is a situation that we find very prevalent in the church today and amongst many believers today. Therefore, people do not know their true identity in relationship with God. And as a result, people are striving to become or to be conformed to a false image of themselves modeled to them through religion. And the problem that they come up with is that all that this can do, all that perception can do is cause them to pretend to be someone they are not. And I think that, you might be watching this and this is speaking to you. I know the frustration of trying to become and to conform to an image of that is not real, that is not what God made us to be. So we find actually what happens in most circles is that a false person is going about trying to have a relationship with essentially a false God, and that relationship can just never exist. John goes on in 1 John chapter 5 and verse 21 to say this. He says, "Little children, keep yourselves from idols, false gods, from anything and everything that would occupy the place in your heart due to God." Now, of course, this almost goes without saying for many of us. It almost goes without saying that, I don't have idols in my home that I worship, false images. But, when you have a false image of who God is, and you don't know who God is, and you are trying to, as it were, have relationship with a false image of who God is, that is as good as worshiping an idol. And that's why he then says, keep yourselves. That means guard yourselves from idols or from a false image of who God is. He says, from any sort of substitute for who God is that would take first place in your life. You see, trying to relate and have relationship with God based upon a false image of who he really is as good as worshiping an idol. And an idol, according to Paul, does not have a real existence. And that kind of a Christian life will be really frustrating for any person to live. So let me encourage you today Let Jesus be the one to lead you, to guide you, and to model to you the true nature and the character of God. For Jesus himself said, "If you have seen me, you have seen the Father." Hope this has been a blessing to you. Remember that Jesus loves you